Hello everyone. I'm making another video on media theories, media studies, A-level theories. Today we're going to be looking at the genre theory by Steve Niels. And yeah, let's just get into it. See how easy this theory is. The idea that genres may be dominated by repetition, but are also marked by difference, variation, and change. Media products that include some kind of genre usually display a sense of repetition, but that this repetition is not absolute in the sense that there are some changes and variation to it. For example, Kiss of the Vampire displays a typical horror genre, but that there is a slight variation in terms of who the villain actually is, that being a man and a woman. So as you can see, there's an element of binary opposition, but maybe that is a sign of it being less patriarchal, and that is the key difference here, the key variation that we are looking at when it comes to Kiss of the Vampire, because although the genre is actually horror, like a bunch of many horror films like Conjuring or whatever, it's not a carbon copy in the sense that there is some kind of difference, there's some kind of change. So in this case, it's the fact that, for example, the symbolic code being that the woman is holding the man down. So is she dominating him? Is this challenging the patriarchy? Who knows? We all know what someone like Bell Hooks would say, or Van Zunen, the theorists for the feminist theory. The idea that genres exist within specific economic, institutional, and industrial contexts. Genres are usually marked by the contextual background of industry and the economy. For example, high-budget versus low-budget films may contrast in terms of how the genre is portrayed. CGI or continuity editing. And essentially what this is trying to say is essentially, so there are films that have high budgets and therefore they can afford editing techniques like CGI, and that this is a context, an economic context, which may provide the element of change when it comes to how genres are portrayed. So for example, Black Panther utilizes a lot of CGI editing because it has a really high budget and it's owned by a conglomerate, and so it can afford to do that, and as a result the genre is being portrayed differently. That's the element of difference that is being shown onto there. Whereas a low budget film like I, Daniel Blake, because of the lack of funds that it has access to, because it's low budget, it utilizes something called continuity editing. Continuity editing is an editing technique which aims to connect scenes more fluidly, something like in a way. So for example, in I, Daniel Blake, the scene where he's walking inside the center and he goes to meet the woman who has like 2 kids, that is continuity editing because we know exactly where he's going, the camera's following him, and the scene cuts are very kind of compact together, they're not too far apart, unless there's a major shift in the equilibrium. How can this theory be used in an essay? What would Steve Niels say about the agenda of the question, for example? Explore how far gender representations go in regards to the film industry. So, as we discussed, the 2 media set products that we looked at were Kiss of the Vampire. Well, we looked at 3 actually: Kiss of the Vampire, I, Daniel Blake, and Black Panther. Well, Black Panther may not be as important to this question as the other 2, although there is some kind of importance when it comes to the fact that Black Panther is a man, and this man is fighting, and that conforms to the patriarchy, this traditional masculine kind of trait of violence and strength. But more importantly, I'd say that if you want to answer this question, you should refer to the other 2 set products, or a question like that would be preferable, where it says refer to, for example, I, Daniel Blake, or Kiss of the Vampire. Kiss of the Vampire because there's a man holding a woman down, but then there's also a woman holding a man down in the film. The sentence starters are Neil may note that, or Neil may argue that, or someone like Neil may point to the fact that. So again, these are sentence starters that we looked at yesterday. Very kind of simple but safe. They work. The key ideas to refer to would be the fact that genres are marked by repetition to sometimes represent genders differently, and that industry and there's also industry and economic contexts. So overall, to answer this question, you can say gender is represented um, less patriarchal in Kiss of the Vampire, in that the horror genre is marked by difference because of how the woman is holding the man down, but in the same image, the man is holding the woman down. So there's a balance there, a binary opposition balance. It's not just the man holding the woman down. So some could say that that's less patriarchal. That's challenging the patriarchy. Of course, I'm saying this not in regards to the film industry, but if I was going to refer to the film industry, I'd look at Daniel Blake, for example. I'd say, okay, Daniel is going to a woman who has 2 kids. That is perhaps patriarchal in the sense that he's the protagonist and he's the main character, and she's just another woman who has kids and she's a mother. So that conforms to a more traditional kind of representation of women, which coincides with the genre theory, because the element of change. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Some could say this is the genre theory in a nutshell. And yeah, I'm finished.